This is the all-new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. It is a foldable phone, and I am a lifelong Apple user, but this phone has looked the same for, I don't know, however long I can remember it. I love gadgets, I love testing new technologies, and ever since I saw the Google Pixel Fold, I was like, folds look interesting. I want to try what this is like because your phone can turn into a tablet and vice versa, but this was a little bit too thick. The camera was okay, but Samsung just released theirs, which has a much better camera, supposedly. It turns into an iPad-like device, and it's still a phone. And now it comes with a watch as well that you can purchase. So I want to see, can I replace my handy-dandy, forever true iPhone 16 Pro Max with the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and see what happens. Okay. You're an iPhone user, right? This is a Samsung Fold, the brand new device that just came out.
Fold, huh?
Yeah, it folds open like a book.
Oh, that's very cool.
Would you give up your iPhone for this?
Honestly?
Now, the first way I decided to understand how do I use my device and what are all the things that I will need to do on my Samsung. So I'm gonna go through. I use my phone 8 hours a day, which is absurd. It's crazy, I know. But the most common thing I do is Instagram, messages, a lot of iMessages, Google Chrome, TikTok, Gmail, X, Photos, ChatGPT. So it's a lot of messaging, social media, directions with Google Maps, media consumption, a little bit of wearables, and definitely a lot of camera usage. And you can kind of see how I most often use my app. And the biggest thing for me is iMessage. I use iMessage a lot. I don't know why, but people just message me all the time. And the first thing I wanted to know is, can I use iMessage on a Samsung Z Fold? And you can't. But I did try to find, there's an app called AirMessage. It's a hacky way to take your MacBook, install an app that will then send your iMessages to potentially an Android phone. But to be honest with you, I have not been able to get it to work. It just keeps saying checking for a connection, or it will say failed. And I don't know if that's because it just doesn't work on my Mac, but this is not a reliable, it's not secure, and it's not recommended way of doing iMessages. But that's where the big argument is, you can switch over to RCS. So now if I go ahead and go to my Messages app, we're gonna have RCS. So I have an RCS chat with my iPhone, and I can send photos, I can send text messages, I can even react. So you can double tap to like that. You can send GIFs, you can send selfie GIFs. I can even send audio messages, which I did.
Shervin, I just wanted to leave you a voice now because we're testing out the new Samsung Flip 7, and I want to become a Samsung audio and let you know that I'm
able to send my location to other people, and even images. They all came out pretty high quality, which, you know, before it used to be SMS and you'd have low quality images, low quality videos, but now with RCS, photos and videos are higher quality. So that's a win right there. Chats just become that much easier. You can't do iMessage. You have the green bubbles. I think living in the United States, this is very specific to the US, iMessage for some reason is like that one thing that will prevent me from switching over to Android. Green bubbles, and it's just harder to socialize. It's harder to make friends. People want to know that you have those blue bubbles. As sad as that is one of the biggest roadblocks. But that is not stopping me. RCS, we're switching over to RCS. You can do group chats. You can name group chats. I've been in RCS group chats now on my iPhone. So I know that that's now possible on the Samsung Fold 7 and any Android device. My biggest fear was if you just switch your SIM over to Android and you don't turn off iMessage, there's a likelihood that some iMessages still might be sent. Or if people are sending and receiving to your emails, that might be another issue. Like right now I have 2 phone numbers, only one is being used. And then I have emails, which are also being used as well. So I can send and receive via email. One thing I would do is, if you are fully switching over, is to make sure that you go ahead, sign out of iMessage on your iPhone first, and then transfer it over. And then you'll have to kind of restart all your group chats. Things will get a bit challenging, but that's part of the experience of the transition over. But the one thing about the transition is Samsung makes it really nice. You can, once you get the phone, it'll say, hey, do you want to transfer things from your iPhone? You'll plug in a USB-C cable on this side, the USB-C cable on the other side on your iPhone, and it'll copy all the apps that are compatible, that are also available. It copies all your messages, so your iMessages and everything. They will turn into text and RCS, but you'll have your history, so you know the things that you talked about, and everything gets copied over. You will have to re-log into all your accounts, which is a hassle, but that's part of the process. Even when I get a new iPhone, I have to do that. But then it'll almost feel like you have most of the things you need to get started. So the transition process is not too difficult. FaceTime is a big part of my life. So right now I need to FaceTime a friend and I can't. So I'm gonna invite them. There's an option here where I tap the triple dots that says video, invite them to join Meet so you can video chat. And it's gonna take me to a Google Meet. So I'm gonna see if they will actually join this. Okay, so now we've got a Google Meet This is the next best thing to FaceTime, I guess. That's how I would send it via RCS. And I can't call them. I texted them a link. So now the question is, are they going to join? See, now I can't ring, but I'm like, now I gotta wait for their text message. I can't interrupt their day. Well, that's no fun. Oh, allow. Okay, now it says admit. Hello. Oh, business lady. You're at Springbone. Okay, I've got this half and half here. Maybe we full screen it. She joined again. We're having some issues. Let's. Now there's 2 of you. We'll full screen this one. Okay, so would you be okay if I FaceTimed you like this instead of FaceTime?
No, but I'm getting suggested. It says, suggest on the go, switch this to an audio call.
Oh, because it does. Oh, I see. Interesting.
That's funny. Okay.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Hi, Zach.
Left the call. All right, Google Meet. It works. Audio video is okay, but it works. Not ideal. I don't want to call somebody. I want to be able to call somebody. I don't want to text them. So my options from here are really probably just using like WhatsApp to call people. I can go to like Instagram. I can say, okay, call, allow while using this app. And now it's going to start contacting someone on Instagram as a video call. And that's just another way to do it. But I think most people in the US are like, why are you calling me on Instagram? That's a bit weird. But that is kind of the workarounds that you might have to take when you switch over. It's just part of the process. There is no FaceTime. People can send you FaceTime links and you can join it via the browser, but you will not be able to send FaceTimes to other people. Now, the next most common thing it looks like I use is Google Chrome. That's easy. Chrome on all my browsers, the web browser. I use Safari sometimes on my iPhone, but it's just a web browser. Super simple. I think we're using that less and less with AI. Social media, all the apps are pretty similar. Like I have Instagram here. I can watch my Reels. There is one unique difference with this is if I go to Reels on my iPhone, it fills the screen essentially. Whereas on the Samsung Galaxy, on the Z Fold, it doesn't fully fill the screen. There's these black bars on the top and bottom. So if you're like, hey, I really need to optimize my social media use, you're not gonna get the best viewing experience. But what's nice, this is a fold. We get to open it up. So now I can open it up and scroll Instagram like this, but now you're gonna have black bars on the side. So I can scroll through Reels, watch content, and just brain rot all day if I really want to. And then you have your messages, you have, you know, your notifications, and all that is accessible. It feels like you're kind of like on a tablet device, which on the iPhone, there's just less things that you can do, but all the same features are available. I think when it comes to posting, that is the one big issue. Let's see if I try to post a story, let's say this one, and I want to post, you know, a photo that people have mentioned that there's compression on the Android app versus the iPhone app. So people like posting on social media using iPhones. That's something I'll have to test more of, but you know, as a content creator, I want to get the best quality. And if I'm going to get the best quality uploads on the iPhone app, then I'm most likely going to use that as my business social media device. And maybe I'll use the Android as my personal device. Now this is a fold. So the biggest value is that it folds open. Like if you're on the subway, you're at a doctor's office and you want to view something, like I need to search something on a website, I can go ahead and go to ShervinShares.com and I can view this amazing website by Shervin Shares on a bigger screen. I get to see more text. If you're reading articles, all that is available here. Whereas on a regular, typical smartphone, you're not going to get all that information. It's just a smaller screen, less real estate. It's not as fun to hold. I can still type relatively well. I found that if I go ahead and have the split keyboard, it's pretty easy to type. Hello world. I don't even know if I go to websites anymore, I'll be honest with you, but if there's certain things I need to do, I can do that. I think my favorite thing is now I started using ChatGPT a lot more. I think I can get a list of all the different apps that are not on there that I typically use. And I can easily read it on the iPhone. If I try to consume that same level of information, it's gonna be corrupt. Like now I have this chart I gotta scroll through, whereas on the Fold, I get the entire viewing experience. It becomes an easier device to consume content, whether it's reading text on a website inside of an app, reading emails. Like reading emails on this device is 10 times easier. Like if I want to read an email on the iPhone versus this Z Fold, like there's so much more real estate in terms of I can read more, even just holding it and being able to be like, okay, this is what they're saying. Now I can easily type my response using this keyboard. It just makes it that much more convenient. Maybe I start walking and I need to fold it back up. Boom, we're back in foldable mode and we can use it as a regular phone. So having that dual experience of it's a phone, but it's also a tablet at such a thin dimensions, that is what makes this game changer. So let's talk about the design, the form factor. If I look at my iPhone right here, and the Z Fold 7, I think is thinner. It's almost just as thin as the iPhone. It's pretty close. The only issue is the camera bump on the Z Fold is much bigger. So when you do put this phone down, it doesn't really hold well. It will wobble more, whereas the iPhone just wobbles a little bit. I don't like either of these options, but having an increased wobble makes it hard if I want to use the phone like this on the surface, whereas the iPhone I can kind of get away unless I press in the corners. That's where I get in trouble. Whereas the Z Fold is almost like any area I press in, it moves around. Nope, the camera bump, not in love. But if I'm using it in the folded open factor, that's where there isn't as much of an issue. I can press around. It's only when I get to the edges here where I get a little bit of a wobble. It's really bottom right. iPhone, it's top left more so. Not in love with that, but having a extremely thin form factor, like I like to run a lot, so I want to be able to fold this up, slide it into my pocket. The pocket's not going to be bigger than a typical smartphone, so then I can do that. I can use it like a smartphone when I'm sitting down at the doctor's office or, you know, in the subway or commuting or something, and I want a bigger device to consume content much easier. Boom, it opens up. So from that perspective, it's nicer. Okay, so from the weight wise, I think the iPhone is slightly heavier in terms of how it feels in my hand, which is insane because it's just the regular phone. The finish, they both look clean. I love this blue color of the fold. I like this titanium on the iPhone. Kind of wish I went with all black so it's more discreet. But in terms of scratching, like both these devices will scratch and show signs of wear and tear. So you might want a case. The thing you do have to watch out for is this is a foldable. So now you have a little bit of a crease that goes down the middle here. And you can kind of see that crease right there. At certain angles, you can see the crease. So if you're watching content or you're reading certain things, you might see that crease right there in the middle of the phone. Not ideal, but that's just part of having a foldable. And then is that it's foldable. It's extremely thin. If I sit on this is going to bend. Like I pretty easily could take my hands right now and probably break this. So you need to have Samsung Care Plus, which I do have Apple Care on my iPhone. And if I'm using this long term, like you really want to have Samsung Care Plus to make sure if anything happens like that, like this is so easy to snap. When you have a thin phone, but very long with levers, this thing, gone. The other issue is like I have the Samsung ring here. If I hold the phone like this, that ring is gonna hit the back of the device and most likely cause some level of scratching. I've had that happen with my Apple Watch scratching my MacBook. If they're building this stuff with the same materials and metals, they're gonna scratch each other. That's just how it works. Now, the reason that I wanted a foldable is because I got the Google Pixel Fold and I was like, hey, maybe this will inspire me to switch. And I played with this, but the bezels are so thick, it's pretty wide. When you put it side by side with the Samsung, you can notice how much of a difference the Samsung feels in your hand just from a foldable experience. Like it is thinner. It is much thinner just from the side. It feels much lighter. And then the Google Pixel has like the camera in the corner up here, whereas the Z Fold has it up here. The bump on the Google Pixel is not as big, so it's not gonna wobble, whereas this will wobble more. But I think it just feels more premium. It looks nicer. I do love the look of this camera bump on the Google Pixel more than the Z Fold. But when you close the Google Pixel Fold, like the bezels are so large, it just feels like this is too new, too old. It doesn't feel like it's a modern device, and it's not something I'd want to use long term. It's a nice to have, but I didn't feel in love with it where I would keep using it. Whereas the Z Fold, like the bezels are almost non-existent. It feels more like a smartphone when it's closed, even in terms of the thickness as well as the screen. Whereas this feels like something from the 1990s. Now let's talk about battery life and charging. It is thin. Does this last the full day? For me, it does not. I'm a power user. I've just found that no device lasts the whole day. We're at 23%. We started the day, I think around 100%. It's about 7:49. So this is most of the day, but just being such a power user using internet, social media, capturing content, I will burn through the battery of any device, and I always have chargers. So I have this nice charger right here. And what's nice is if I plug this in, we'll be able to see the wattage that it's pulling. And this doesn't exist on iPhone, not yet. I think in iOS 26, it will show. This is pulling about 20 watts of juice. 1 hour, 8 minutes until it's full. This is outputting 22 watts of juice right now. So we can see about 22 watts of power. So you do need a 30 watt power brick most likely. This will fully charge in an hour and 8 minutes from 24%. So that's nice. An hour to fully charge your phone from 20%. Even just putting it for 30 minutes will probably get me the rest half of the day that I need. Now, another big test is payments. I do love using Apple Pay if you ever watch my videos. And there is a Samsung Pay, so you're able to have a transit card. So I can use my credit card to pay on transit for the subway. I can use Apple Pay, whatever it is. So both devices support that. That's pretty clean across all systems. I think all smartphones, the experience is essentially the same. I don't have to unlock these devices. I can just tap them at the terminal, and in New York City, I can just ride the subway, no problems, no hassle. And like most things, what else is exactly the same? Like most apps are available on Android. They feel exactly the same. I use Spotify on both my phones. So Spotify, same exact experience, feels exactly the same. The headphones might be different. Like on iPhone, you'll have your AirPods, which you'll get to sync up pretty easily with your Apple devices. If they load up right here, boom, you've got little stems that go for that. And then on the Samsung, you have the Galaxy Buds, which very similar, small stems, just like that. You can zoom out here and you can see the differences. They're very similar in terms of how they look. The case is almost exactly the same size. They all charge via USB-C. So it's pretty much the same experience, similar features. There's not much of a differentiating factor. So if you're worried that you might not get certain things, like the Samsung, Apple ecosystems are so similar now that they're The biggest difference is one has a foldable and the other does not. Apple, we're gonna get one or what? Now, another app that I use a lot is Find My, and there are no alternatives. There's a Google Find My devices, but there's no Apple Find My. There is Google Find Hub, and then there's a Samsung Find My as well. But these are more for products and they don't exist for people. As you can see, I have like 40 or 50 people just in New York that I can track on the Find My app. So I love using that. It's just a way to keep track of friends. Like, if they're nearby, I'll call them, hey, what are you doing? I'll FaceTime them and be like, hey, let's catch up. So like the ecosystem of Find My, FaceTime, and iMessage are the 3 biggest communication pillars to having a friend group, relationship group here in New York City, at least for me. Like, it might be different in cities where people are more spread out or like the suburbs. But in a major city like this, like that's been a big feature that I use. And that's been one of the hardest things that like I can't give on my iPhone, because then I would lose out on the ability to be like, oh, who's near me? Like, let's spontaneously hit them up. Or let's FaceTime them. Like, now I'd have to find alternatives that might not be as good or might not work. And that can make it a bit harder to be social with friends. Another thing is when you go to conferences, people love using name drops. So if you have an iPhone, you can go ahead and press the 2 iPhones together and you will drop your contact information to the other iPhone. But when you have an Android, you can't do that. You also have to manually enter their number, which I did that recently when I was at the Samsung conference. It works, it's fine, but I've found it become more common amongst people to be like, hey, tap, share contacts, boom, done. iMessage, done. Those seamless experiences like AirDrop, name drop, like these types of things I feel like should just be the same across ecosystems. And I know that it's hard to agree on protocols and like make sure that the experience is seamless and things don't go wrong, especially when it's different companies, different brands. But like, I wish like Ethernet, like internet, there was some way where all these devices could speak together and we could use some of these features, Find My Friends across all devices, and it didn't matter. Because at some point, AI is going to replace all these devices and we're not going to carry a smartphone. So like, let's just be friends and fight AI together before that happens. And the second piece is I have a Mac. I use universal clipboard handoff. Like, I can send things, copy paste from my iPhone to my Mac. Little things that I use that make life a little bit easier that I don't have on the Samsung and the Android phones, which is like system integrations. When you own that ecosystem, it's just part of the process. Samsung Health versus Apple Health, cardio fitness, VO2 max. So most of the same data points that you're gonna get on both devices, you'll see inside of Samsung Health and Apple Health, and it syncs to the cloud. So you have that as you switch devices. There are obviously the new features on Samsung where you get your AGE index, stress, the AGE, antioxidant index. Let's measure this again. I'm trying to eat more carrots and it looks like it's going up by measuring this. So we're gonna test this one last time. Measure, oh shoot. Boom, very low, we're dropping down again. So I definitely need to keep eating more carrots. I wanna get that to adequate in the next 7 days. You can enter in blood pressure. Same thing with Apple Health, you can manually enter in certain variables as well. But the Samsung, which is unique, they'll offer sleep coaching depending on what type of sleep and wake times are. So it gives a little bit more advice on Samsung Health, whereas Apple Health is just raw data. So that way you can kind of make the insights on your own. But all the wearables, all the third-party apps, like I can use my Whoop, I can get my 8 Sleep Pod, like all these things transition over. All the apps are the same. Uber, Lyft, like using City Bike. I commute a lot with City Bike. So being able to just use Lyft to unlock the city bikes and bike around the city, and then be able to navigate using Google Maps on the Samsung Watch. Boom, it all works the same. It's seamless. It's just a different ecosystem, slightly different. But all these third-party apps, like that's where the switch is easy. It's the core system ecosystems inside of Apple versus Samsung where the transition becomes a bit harder. Now, the display on the Samsung, when I took it outside, did not seem as bright, although they say it's 2600 nits peak brightness, whereas the iPhone 16 Pro Max is 1600 nits, I think it is, peak brightness with HDR content. But as on my iPhone, I don't know what it is, it throttles, it heats up. The brightness just doesn't match. It's unable to stay at peak brightness, and the brightness just drops, like it throttles the brightness. Whereas on the Samsung, it stayed brighter when I was taking photos outside, and you can see in these images, one photo, the iPhone was winning, and then it got hot within 5 minutes, and then the Samsung was winning. So like being able to perform in hot, warm environments is really critical. My iPhone has been unable to do that, and so far the Samsung has just been a better job. Just because a phone can achieve XYZ doesn't mean anything if it can't do it a majority of the time. And my iPhone says it can do a lot of things, but it overheats way too often. And I've had to buy like a fan for it. I need to find ways to cool it down. It's been a bit frustrating. I've been like, oh my God, I'm almost gonna burn myself with this device. But the Samsung has not gotten that hot yet. Hopefully it will never will. So, you know, I'm a YouTube creator. I love watching videos. And on the iPhone, ultimate guide is switching to Android. Let's go. So usually I'll watch the video like this, or I'll turn it sideways and I'll start to watch like this. And then I don't like having anything on my phone, so I'll find something to prop it on. and maybe it'll stay up. Sometimes it falls. But hey, maybe this is a fold. So what we do is we open it, and now we have a device that stays up. This screen, I can tilt to face me. I have controls. I love watching my videos on 2x. I can quickly do that. I can skip forward using this forward button. I can pause, play. Like now it's like a dual screen tablet device, and I can adjust the height as needed, or I can flip it this way if the camera bump is bothering me. Look at that. That is probably like you're eating lunch and you want to watch YouTube. Boom, I've got a little TV stand. Okay, maybe I want the bigger screen. I open it up. We hit the maximize, and now we have the screen this way. We can watch the video like so, or I can even flip it this way and it gets just a tad bigger. The only issue I don't like here is the camera bump, camera dot, I should say. Can be a little distracting, but now I have a bigger screen. I want to zoom in. I can zoom in all the way and fill the entire thing and watch them. You do lose some of the pieces from the edges, but look at that. Like watching a video like this on a phone that is this thin anywhere you want, not gonna lie, that is pretty cool. One thing with multitasking is I can take notes. I can watch videos kind of like on a bigger screen while I'm using the tablet device. So here we want to open up, let's say Google Docs. Just open up notes here. So now I can take this video and maybe, so let's say I want to watch a video, but I also want to take notes on it as well. Actually, I'll put it on this side. So now I can go ahead and create a new note, and easily I can multitask by taking notes. Like, okay, what is he talking about? The new Sony camera is XYZ better. So then I can do research on YouTube videos. I have a dual screen where I can see what I'm writing. I can view the YouTube video as I'm watching. We can full screen it here so that way it fills the screen. But having the ability to multitask like this, I think I can even pull in an app on top of these bad boys. So now I'm able to have a third app on here. So I'm writing notes, maybe I'm messaging myself, whatever it is. There's so much to do all within this tablet form. And I think being able to multitask and do so much more on this device just means I can touch my computer less and get more work done. That is really unique. You can't do this on any kind of iOS device. Maybe the iPad, that's the closest thing. But being able to do it on a smartphone, and then I'm like, all right, let's fold it up and keep going about my day. Boom. So nice, so convenient, so cool. S Pen support, that's the biggest thing. It's gone. I love using my iPad and Apple Pencil to journal and write. If I don't have to have a tablet and this becomes my tablet and my smartphone, I would love that. But there's no S Pen support, so I don't get to test it out. And I understand it might be frustrating for the people who had it, but I guess it just wasn't as popular and they took it out. Not ideal, but that's gone. From an AI perspective, they're both pretty much the same. You can do most of the same things. Gemini is an app, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, they're all apps. You can download them. You can share your screen to Gemini to be able to ask information. And when it comes to feature sets, very similar. So there's not much a big differentiating factor there. The win is Gemini on Samsung can control system controls, whereas Gemini on iPhone can't really control the system controls as much. And Siri, I don't know. Siri just doesn't work sometimes for me. Now Gemini, it has some cool AI features where I can say try live. I can share my camera, and now, I can ask Gemini questions about what it sees. I'm gonna share my camera while using the app. Okay. Can you give me the summary about what this book is about and where I can buy it? My friend has it.
Okay, that's Sponsor Magnet by Justin Moore. It's about how to attract, price, and manage brand partnerships. You can probably find it online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or check your local bookstores.
Can you navigate me to the Amazon page for this book so I can buy it?
So I can't control your phone yet, so I can't open the Amazon page for you. But if you open the Amazon app, I can help you search for the book there.
Okay, I really like this hat. Can you find a way where I could buy it?
That's a cool hat. It says Press Publish on it. To find out where you can buy it, you could try searching online for Press Publish Hat, or checking the website of any podcast networks or publishing companies you know. Do you have any favorite podcast networks or publishers?
Okay, so it's cool, but there's certain things I want to be able to do that I still can't do. I think there's a lot of people like, oh, AI still not there. There are some things that you can do. If you know the limitations, great. But I just want to be able to interact with it. I want to be able to order these things for me, find the book summary. It's so close. It's there, but it's not perfect. So I think Google just needs to work on improving Gemini with the ability to have it fully integrated in the phone, pull up the camera. I can share my screen. I can ask questions about my screen. There are a good amount of things that you can do, but there still are a lot of things you can't do. But I think AI is just going to keep getting better and better. Now, camera. I'm a content creator. I love hanging out with friends. I love hanging out with family. I love capturing moments with videos and cameras. I'm going to put a poll I'm going to put on my Instagram, so follow me at Shervin Shares to see what people think of the iPhone camera versus the Samsung camera, which one they actually like better, a blind test. And we'll put the results up here. But we took a couple photos around New York City with these cameras. The Samsung has a 0.6 wide lens and this is a 0.5 wide lens, so a little bit wider. But but this has a 5x zoom, and this can go up to like 30x with digital zoom, I think it is. Pause, camera update. I'm gonna go through what people thought of the poll. If you follow me on Instagram, you can see that I did a poll on my story, so at Shervin Shares, and we're gonna go through the results of what people thought about the photos. First one, so the top is iPhone, the bottom is Samsung. It was easier to frame myself on the Samsung because I could see the screen, whereas the iPhone I could not. And it just looked a little more saturated on the Samsung versus the iPhone, but it looked like people slightly prefer the iPhone over Samsung. I prefer the Samsung over the iPhone in this image. Now, viewing experiences might be different, so I'm showing it on both devices, and this little camera bump is really bothering me. Top is Samsung, bottom is iPhone. I think people like the bottom one because there's just more bokeh, more blur. Like if you look at the lights there, you can see that there's just more blur on them versus the top one that has a little less blur. I think that's the biggest thing. But in terms of like colors, overall like dynamic range, they seem pretty similar. There might be a bit more dynamic range on the iPhone on the bottom with the sky, especially on the top left here. There's just more color, whereas it's more washed out on the Samsung photo. Okay, the Highline Park. This one, massive difference. The bottom, 80%. What's funny is the bottom is the Samsung. The top is iPhone. So the iPhone got destroyed in this one. That's crazy. I think there's just more dynamic range on the Samsung. You can see more of the clouds, whereas on the iPhone, it just feels a bit washed out. There is a bit more saturation and detail, especially in the trees on the bottom on the Samsung versus the iPhone on the top. So I understand why people pick Samsung over iPhone. It seems like scenery, the Samsung is better than the iPhone. Now this is a macro shot. Bottom is iPhone, top is Samsung. Looks like Samsung won again. The bottom is a bit brighter. I didn't edit these. These were just macro shots with the macro mode on. It looks like the iPhone feels a bit washed out. It does feel brighter. I would have picked the brighter image. But the Samsung has more color. It feels like it has more texture. The greens are greener. The flower has more pink. It's just a little bit darker. Like you can easily edit that. But just natively, straight from camera, the Samsung just felt more colorful, just a little bit darker. And I get why people like that one, just a bit more color. So Samsung won that. Now the video. So iPhone was HDR, so that's why on the iPhone it's gonna look a bit brighter. Whereas on Android, you're not gonna see that HDR on Instagram. If you switch over to the B photo, the B just had more colors. The green seemed greener. It just seems a little more saturated, which is interesting. But in terms of dynamic range, they're both pretty similar. They got all the shadows and the sky. You can see all the clouds. I mean, you're still seeing the people walking, so not much of a massive difference. But I think there's just something about the Samsung that looks a bit better. I think it's just more saturated. That's probably why. But if we go to the video, I know this isn't a fair comparison because the first one is HDR, and it's gonna look different if you view it on iPhone Instagram versus Android. But it looked like most people picked A, which was iPhone. And it was HDR. I think in the next poll, I won't do HDR, but that was the poll result. So if we actually review all of the polls, iPhone won number 1, iPhone won number 2, Samsung won number 3, Samsung won number 4, and then video, it went to iPhone. Quick and dirty test, poll on Instagram. Most of my viewers are probably iPhone because we're in the United States, but that's the result. It looks like it was 50-50 for photos on iPhone versus Samsung. The one video I posted, iPhone won. If you want to see more testing, let me know. I also posted this on Twitter on my ex at Shervin Shares. Follow me there. Now back to me in the past when I recorded the rest of the video. So it's hard to say which one is the winner, but I know the iPhone video has always been like the #1 video content creator, but the cameras are disputed between iPhone and now a big win for the foldable is the camera, and I can double tap this button to open up the camera. I love the capture button on the iPhone because that loads up the camera. But now if I want to do selfie mode, I can go ahead and tap selfie mode, and this is huge. If I want to take a selfie on my iPhone, what I'll usually do is I'll take the iPhone, I hit 0.5, and then I rotate the camera, and then I take the photo using the volume buttons on the side to take the photo, and I don't know what I'm taking a photo of because, you know, the back camera is always the highest quality. Well, here on the Fold 7, you want to use the back camera, you have these 3 lenses on the back, and now you can use the front screen as your viewfinder. You can take photos like this, like you're vlogging. I can hit 0.5. I can use all 3 lenses. If I want to vlog, I can go ahead and press video mode. I can press wide, and now I can vlog. The only hard part is like trying to press record and not record. If I am holding it like so, I found that I can press the volume button with my pointer finger and hold it vertical. But if I'm holding it horizontal, it becomes a bit harder to maybe press the volume button to start recording. Like boom, now we're recording, and then pinky button to stop recording. It's a bit more challenging. So I'd most likely just press it. And I want to take a vertical photo, ultra wide selfie with like friends. I go ahead and hold it like so, and then I press this button, bam. and now I have a photo. It's like, geez. So this is a big win for foldables in terms of using the back camera and still having a screen. Now, the dream obviously would be to have the screen right here, but maybe that's future technology. Well, that's why you have the Samsung Z Flip, but just another way. And this is what it shows on the other side of the screen when you're not using it. And this is what it looks like when you're trying to use the camera. Isn't that cool? That's pretty neat. So Samsung does have some of the best AI photo editing features, and we want to test that out. I took some photos at the vessel. So this is the photo I took. We're gonna go reimagine your images. Okay. Tap or draw anything to move or delete. So this one has a lot of people, but I'm just going to circle them all. Let's see if we can get rid of all those people, because we're like, let's take a photo with all these random people in it, but I want to be able to see if I can erase them. Kabam! Fill the image. Samsung AI is, from what I've seen, the best at removing this stuff and having this massive screen to do it. Oh my god, that is crazy! Look how good that is. Are you serious? That feels like they actually disappeared. I'm impressed. I'm very, very impressed. Let's keep going. Save a copy. That is so cool. So I think that's one of the wins with the AI image. And they also have a new audio eraser, so when you're taking videos, you can help filter out the audio to get better sounding videos. And lastly, price. So this iPhone is the 1 terabyte option. It is $1,599. This is the 512 gigabyte. I think $1,999 it starts for the Samsung Fold. So when you get the top tier iPhone, the bottom tier Fold, $300 difference. Like, phones are getting so expensive. So when it comes to flagship devices, is this something I would use? I would love to. I love the tablet form factor. I love the foldable form factor. I miss iMessage. I miss Find My, FaceTime, AirDrop. Like, all my apps, everything else I can do from my iPhone to Samsung, but I can't do that on the Samsung. So it's only on my iPhone. So it's like, if I did switch, I'd carry the iPhone just to be able to do those things here and there. But then it's like, which one am I gonna grab first? These phones are amazing. I love where the technology is going, and I hope that this pushes people like Google, pushes people like Apple to make bigger and better phones, because Samsung, I feel like, is on the bleeding edge of the hardware for smartphones, and AI is going to keep changing the game. So I want to see them keep improving. These are my thoughts. It's my experience as a lifelong Apple iPhone user testing out the new Samsung Z Fold 7. If you do plan to buy any of these Samsung devices, we'll have links down below. Those help support the channel. Samsung did let me use this as a review unit, but they did not pay me to make this video. I want to make another video on the Samsung Galaxy 8 watch. So comment below the questions you have for that. Remember, subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on all the socials at Shervin Shares if you want to see future content.